So, a vision quest in my holding is a one-day deep dive that works at the level of context rather than content. You know, we're orienting ourselves towards that realm of being rather than the doing that we spend most of our lives in. And I'm in conversation today with someone, Takako, who stepped into this unique container last year to speak about her lived experience of this work and also to notice 9 months down the road what's shifted and what's changed, what the impact of that step into the unknown has been. Takako is a BodyMind Maturation Coach. She's also a mum. And you started your professional life in advertising and media.
Yeah.
But something shifted for you at a very specific moment in time. Should we let that be our beginning here?
Yeah. And that specific moment in time was motherhood.
Mm.
Before I became a mother, I thought I was in control of everything. I thought I was somebody who didn't get angry. I thought I was quite laid back, and could, yeah, deal with whatever life threw me. But then babies came and everything just shifted. All the emotions that I never knew existed in my body were just surfacing, like anger, resentment, despair, and I just didn't know what to do about it. So, as most of us do, I thought, right, I'm going to fix this. I will read all the books under the sun to learn how to be a parent and to manage myself better, make the situation better. And whilst the books did help, because motherhood, I feel, is such a step into the unknown, I was still experiencing all these emotions that felt so uncomfortable. And that's when I found maturation coaching, and decided that I would train to be a body mind maturation coach. Because having experienced it firsthand, that's what I wanted to support people in, the being rather than the doing. And that's when I came across you, Emma, because I had heard such great things about you. Some of my fellow maturation coaches had worked with you. And so I sought you out, and that's when we started working together.
Mm. Maybe we could notice that even here at this moment, you know, motherhood was an initiation of sorts, a threshold moment. And it wasn't so much motherhood, although that was the catalyst. It was surfacing something that had been in your being a long time.
Yes.
And we could call that a context,
Hmm.
some way of being that was unconscious to you that was revealed by
Yes.
motherhood. And I think that's very common. You know, there are these events that happen in our lives that start to challenge our habitual ways of being because we can't keep up the song and the dance anymore. And that's why motherhood is such a gift. Challenging, just as you say, universal, but also it brings us to something very specific in ourselves if we're prepared to look at it, which is, I mean, most often our relationship to control. And our relationship to control is another way of saying the survival mind,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is at the root of maturation as a way of working, in that it is focusing in a very, very sharp and specific way upon our relationship to our own minds. And that's where the shift comes from. And that's what you experienced as you stepped into this work and then deepened
Yeah.
your commitment to that relationship with your mind and that interest in what we sometimes describe as the magnetic pull of your way of being, the one that you've survived with up until now, but no longer serves you. So let's go towards that, which is, I just like to ask, what was happening in your life and what was going on for you when the possibility of doing a vision quest with me came into view?
Yeah. So actually, when you first approached me, I think it was about a year ago, because it wasn't a simple yes. It never is when we are meeting our stretch. And I think I've been a maturation coach, a full-time coach, for 3, 4 years. And I was making money and I had clients, which is great, but it was never going to give me the life that I wanted. And I seemed to be stuck on a certain number of clients, which was amazing on one hand, but I knew that there was so much more that I wanted to give, but I didn't know how. So it was a bit of a treading water kind of situation that I was in. I'd worked with you previously.
Mm.
It had unlocked so much. And every time new clients would appear or something would shift with my relationship with my daughters and my husband. But at that particular time, I remember feeling like, what's next? But I didn't really know how to move to that next place or where that next place was.
And as you're saying that, it's making me remember that, you know, we think when we've arrived at adulthood that we're done, don't we? We
Yeah.
think, oh, you know, I'm empathetic, I have some level of mindfulness, I know how to do this. But we find that there's some part of us that hasn't fully arrived. We're still restricted in our capacity to live and to thrive. And that there is this whole other developmental phase that's available to us as adults in terms of our consciousness and our relationship to our consciousness. But it requires us, I guess, to surrender something, to surrender the idea that we know what's needed, or that if we keep finding out the answers, we'll find some way through. And actually what tends to happen with that pursuit of knowing or of fixing, just as you described at the beginning, is that it tightens the grip of the original place that has gone into lockdown on us, the original place that is still running and leading our lives, which is why you can't discover something new. It's like you're running a tape and you do your best to sort of deal with the symptoms or manage it, but it never really shifts it.
Yeah. So
And so
yeah.
what,
I
so
think
yeah,
the
what,
only solution that I could think of is, oh, I'll be more visible on social media, or I will try to network a bit more, or try to see if I could be on more podcasts or whatever it might be. I would just try and push and push. And that was the only, I guess, solution that I could find.
I think most of us can relate to that. That's the place our mind goes. There must be something I can do. There must be something I'm missing or that I should be doing. And of course, that's an endless task. It's like trying to hit the wind with a stick because it never deals with whatever's underneath. So let me ask you this question, because it's kind of challenging, which is, what felt risky about saying yes to the Vision Quest?
The money, the investment, that was my first block, I guess. As I said, I had clients, but it wasn't enough money that I could, I had that spare money to spend on myself, also, I thought. And yeah, I could feel the fear in my body rising. The fear that comes from wanting something so much, but knowing that I can't, or a sense that I can't, I shan't. Yeah, the grip of money was really tight.
And when we worked with money in an active way, which means welcoming in everything that money is surfacing, our relationship to money brings us right towards our core relationship to our primary caregivers, our original authority figures. Because when we look at our relationship to money, we always find our relationship to power, to responsibility, to receiving, and to intimacy. And I think most of the time, we just think that it's done and it's stuck and there's no other way around it. But when you start to open money up as an opportunity to inquire into those places, things start to move, right? And what felt very impossible or certain in your mind started to reveal a different place, more space, more possibility than the one who always already knows she can't take care of her needs or grow or step into the unknown.
And when we start to think about money in those terms, it's just wild how much it's connected to all those things that you say.
This happens to be one of those containers that invites all of that in. And it will surface what is blocking you. It will surface your beliefs about yourself, and the idea that you already know what's possible or not, which is a fallacy, because reality is an appearing phenomenon. There is no world already there. We generate it through us. And that's where the possibility comes from. Now, it's not that it's just, some kind of blind trust where you just say, okay, I'll somehow make it work. I think commitment is different to that. Commitment, as I understand it, is being willing to say yes to what we can't see, but being willing 100% to bring it into form, which also means being responsible for it. And that's where the growth bit comes, because it takes us outside of our comfort zone and who we already know ourselves to be, and we get to discover in the present moment, which is creative.
And even in that conversation, the initial conversations, that blind spot about money, I knew that there was something about money, but I hadn't really looked at it directly. And I think it was in the conversation that we had about money, me speaking that amount of money to a potential client, and just really feeling how that felt in my body, allowing that to flow, and just for me to notice what was still there. I think that was the beginning of me stepping into the possibility that maybe this is something that I can step into.
And it's like doing the unfamiliar thing.
Mm,
It's never going to feel comfortable doing the unfamiliar thing. We have this
mm,
idea maybe that if we make the breakthrough, it's going to be easy. No, it's
yeah,
being willing to stay with what is
yeah,
new and outside of who you know yourself to be to discover something new. And that's the context shift.
yeah.
It's not about the content or doing more. It's about working out where we're coming from, who we're being, and our relationship to that, where it no longer leads us, but we are in relationship to it, because we're never going to get rid of these pieces of us. They're
Mm,
formative, and in fact, they're essential. They're what maintain our humanity.
mm-hmm, yeah.
And what about the day itself and your experience of this full day of one-to-one work, which covers Qigong practice, dream work inquiry, ontological teaching about the nature of
Mhm.
reality,
Yeah.
and therapeutic attention to psychodynamics, to our family history? Tell me about how you experienced it.
Um, so I was really nervous actually on the day. I was excited and nervous at the same time. It was the anticipation of what was to come and what I might have to let go of. I
Mm,
think all of that playing out in my mind. But obviously you create such a safe space that as soon as I arrived, that things started to settle. And I think it really helped that we started with the Qigong, because that really showed me where I was currently, the fear that was there, the bracing, and where I was stuck. And through that, I think something loosens. It's like when you can see it, as you say, Emma, when you can see it, then you can actually see it for what it is and to experience that in my body as well. And from that lucid place, you kind of go into the dream weaving where we tap into that unconscious. I used to have these recurring dreams about not making it, just not going to make the plane or whatever appointment that I had, that kind of rushing, that panic, and that unearthed something deep within me that, yeah, that's always been there. I've probably had it since my teens, that kind of dream. And then going into the maturation where it just unlocks so much of what I have been holding on to, but I was blind to.
yeah.
Um, so many ways that I was just so tight and so unwilling to be responsible for all the ways. And actually, I wasn't just stuck in my client work. I was going in the same loop with my daughter. And my eldest is always the one who brings things to the surface for me. And when we're in this perpetual cycle of arguments where she would get really upset, I would get really upset. Uh, and I really realized how much of the child was coming to the surface.
And
The
let me catch something. Oh, sorry.
the unbearableness of, yeah, being with her anger or her despair, the need to escape. Yeah.
I was going to catch what you said about being responsible for these child pieces within us. And just to clarify, because it's important, that being responsible essentially means compassion. It doesn't mean that we sort of take these pieces of us in hand and, I don't know, um, make them behave or suddenly turn into the grown-up. It means really, really allowing and receiving and telling the truth about the experiences that we're carrying. And in that moment of allowing, our identification with that place of pain loosens. And then there's a gap where we get to make new choices. And so by clearing all of that, we create the space for a vision to arrive, a vision to find you. And what was the vision that you were able to discover and declare on that day?
Yeah. And just before I
Mm.
share the vision, I just wanted to note that the beauty of the maturation is that it it lets you in on the truth. Like I couldn't
Mm.
even see it. I couldn't see beyond my anger and my despair and my frustration. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And it's in that seeing of the truth that for me is the place where the shift can start from. My vision that surfaced was to be a space for mothers to see who they have been being and to create a new world of possibilities.
Beautiful. A vision is not something we do or something that we're searching for or a goal that we're aiming for. It's a place to come from. And that's the context shift. And that's your invitation to mothers. Do
Hmm.
you want to get to the root? Do you want to really face and feel what stands in the way of your parenting or your wellness or your thriving, which equals to your children's wellness and thriving also? Their freedom and liberty. Your freedom and liberty is their freedom and liberty.
Yeah.
So let's look at that emerge. But then, a vision quest isn't a quick fix.
No.
The context shifts, but then it takes time to digest and integrate. And then it starts to kind of show itself little by little along the way. And we have this unique opportunity here because we're speaking 9 months down the line. We can actually talk about what's shifted since you made this commitment to yourself, which started with you telling the truth and then followed with you shifting the context that you've been coming from in the creation and generation of your life. And how has it been? What's been changing and shifting?
Yeah. And I think the magic and the mystery of this work is that it keeps on working on you, even though you're not even aware of it. Because when the context shifts, when the place that we come from shifts, then just like a boat, when you do when the boat turns 1 degree, at the beginning, you don't notice it. It's so slight, you don't notice it. And then 9 months, 12 months down the line, it starts to really show itself. So I noticed an immediate shift in my client work. I noticed a vulnerability in my heart, an openness in my heart when I was speaking to clients and a depth that wasn't there before, which felt uncomfortable at the time. But it deepened my work with me being able to see my clients more clearly and to be able to shift them at a much deeper root. And then my relationship with my daughter also shifted. So after that Vision Quest day, I don't think we had an argument for 2, 3 weeks, perhaps, which was so unusual for me. And then we kind of got back into that rhythm, but it didn't last. The intensity was different. So they're the immediate things that I noticed. And then over the last 9 months, the combination of increasing my rates and increasing my clients at the same time, I've more than doubled my revenue compared to last year. So they're the really tangible
Mm.
things that I can see. And I'm not doing anything different. Like, if anything, I'm probably less visible on Instagram now and other social media platforms. And yet people seem to find me. And so it was speaking in, I suppose, a very quiet, unconscious way, but it was coming through. Um, so that's been a huge tangible shift. And then my vision after I declared it, I felt it, with my body. I really felt it, but something I think still needed to land, because for me, the vision was so huge. The impact and the potential was so huge for me that I think I just needed time and space for it to really land and integrate. And it's only the last couple of months where it has been speaking louder and louder to me. Like, there is an urgency now, almost, that I just want a restlessness, that I just want to birth this into the world, and that it can't really wait anymore. So I'm imagining a group program. I'm still building it at the moment, so I don't really know what it looks like, but I imagine a group of mothers coming together who are ready to see themselves in their rawness and the vulnerability and the hugeness, the vastness, the emotions that our children stretch us, and see that as a portal to connect with themselves in a deeper way, to see themselves a lot clearer, and get in touch with their unique essence, their aliveness, because that in itself will open up so much to our children, because they will feel all of that. And the more that we can work together, the more mothers that I can work with, I can just sense this ripple just expanding and expanding. So it will probably be a combination of online and in person, because there is something so special about being in person, face to face, and seeing them in their physical form.
I guess it's passing on that possibility of starting to realize how much in survival we are, and that there is a different way, which requires us to feel very deeply, but ultimately brings more aliveness into everything.
Yeah. The way that I am now is so fundamentally different to when I started this maturation work, this work with you. It's just chalk and cheese. And it's not even chalk and cheese, they're just different realms, actually.
Well, that's the power of bringing our awareness to context, because we are obsessed with content, all of us. It's the way that our minds stay in control, and we do not need our minds as much as we think, which is where all this space comes in, which is where this unfolding emerges. And look at you here, ready now to invite women into this particular holding that's very needed. And you have real insight into the experience of mothers, partly because of your own motherhood journey, but also because of your relationship to belonging, having grown up in Japan and been thrust into this country in a particular way at a particular time, and all the barriers and the complexities that came with that huge transition in your family's life. So I think you're really, really well equipped to offer parents something very, very rare and valuable. And I look forward to seeing it emerge. Thank you, Takako.